during the time that the airplane coming in to the Pentagon, there was a young man who would come in and say to the vice president, the plane is 50 miles out, the plane is 30 miles out. And when it got down to the plane is 10 miles out, the young man also said to the vice president, do the orders still stand? And the vice president turned and whipped his neck around and said, of course the orders still stand. Have you heard anything to the contrary?
This government does not torture people. You know, we stick to U.S. law and our international obligations.
Did you personally have any doubt, any shred of doubt about that intelligence?
No, I didn't.
I believe that the president was right when he said we ought to go forward and not back. I worry about the morale and effectiveness of the CIA. I worry about this thing getting out of control and us harming our ability to carry on the struggle that we're in with radical Islamic extremism.
Are you in favor of releasing the documents that Dick Cheney has been requesting be released?
Well, it won't surprise you that I don't consider him a particularly reliable source of information.
Madam Secretary, I ask you a specific question. Dick Cheney has asked for specific documents to be unclassified. We're not asking for your opinion of Dick Cheney about those documents. You want to maintain your credibility with us. What is your position on the release of those documents? Well,
Congressman, I believe that we ought to get to the bottom of this entire matter. I think it's in the best interest of our country, and that is what the president believes, and that is why he has taken the actions he did.
So you were...
The time of the gentleman.
They're getting ready to implode the economy. They've built this over the last few decades. They have the legislation introduced. They have the 10 regional FEMA governors under federal control with the National Governors Act. All this is in place, and now Steve has gotten, and by the way, we called the numbers and called the addresses, you know, pulled up the numbers on the addresses. We're going to go through that PDF file for prisonplanet.tv viewers. If you go to the article and link through, we have a PDF document there in the second paragraph, and we'll scroll down so they can see it, so they can actually see the diagrams in that PDF. Yeah, there you have it. Where you can see the different blueprints for these huge interrogation rooms. And what's a big concern is multiple sources say they've got the cover claiming this is for Postal Inspector Criminal Investigations, though no one's ever heard of it. That's the cover for building it. We know, even in mainstream articles, these are for forced inoculations and federal police interrogation. So I want to go to Steve Quayle, who is hot on the trail of this. Steve, good to have you back with us.
Thanks, Alex. The interesting thing about this story that is breaking today with you and I and others, especially many thanks to Al Cuppet, is last week I ran into a gentleman that obviously knows who I am, and he started opening up about the work he's been doing on different not only post offices, but the Department of Homeland Security facilities and federal buildings for, you're going to love this, literally silent rooms called interrogation rooms. And this guy knows what's going on, and he's a security specialist. And he said, Steve, what these guys are building are nothing more than absolutely, and he said in his words, they are rendition centers. Now, we know what rendition means, torture. And we also know the fact that based on what multiple witnesses throughout the country are saying, is everything is being geared up, and the level of not only secrecy, but of cordoning off these areas, Alex, with more guards and everything, is indicative of something that's getting really...
Yeah, now they're staffing it. That's the big concern. Remember,
right.
Bush started the secret arrest, the snatch and grab, the torture. Now Lieberman and McCain are on the news trying to pass laws, the Belligerent Act, where the Pentagon can direct citizens are secretly arrested, secretly stripped of their rights, and can be given, quote, enhanced interrogation. And then it turns out Obama overseas has been using new black sites at horse ranches and foreign post office facilities. So they love the nondescript building. They bring you in the back of a postal truck and take you into the torture facility.
I'm going to try to be brief because I've noticed you're on your fourth glass of water, and I don't want to be accused of waterboarding you.
We did a whole lot of things that were right, but we tortured some folks.
Now, a long-delayed Senate report was released today. This was by the Senate Intelligence Committee, and it basically details the enhanced interrogation tactics that were put in place by the CIA. And it reveals that not only did the CIA routinely lie about the information that it received from detaining and interrogating terror suspects, but it also reveals some of the grisliest techniques that were used, methods that were far more brutal than previously acknowledged.
I think it's a terrible piece of work, basically. When told about one detainee being chained to the ceiling of his cell, clothed in a diaper and forced to urinate and defecate on himself, even a president known for his dead or alive swagger expressed discomfort. True? I don't have any idea. I've never heard of such a thing.
Yes, I think the narcissism has gone through all of our military, including the Army, Air Force, and admirals. You've seen a few generals in the Air Force have been discharged by General Martin Dempsey. You've seen a few Navy commanders have been discharged. We have too many generals, too many admirals. Here's the problem. The CIA is a total product of narcissism. It's a fictitious organization that really thinks it does something. It has done more harm than any good over 30 years. I don't say that because I dislike them. Men I knew were men who came out of the OSS, Don Gregg, James Little, Paul Redman, all who had made their bones in North Korea, South Korea, and been in the military. The problem is it outsourced itself to 80% to make money and to create wars that it could not fight, didn't know what to do. As the report suggested, they have no idea of how to interrogate. Every cop on the beat knows how to interrogate better than they do. Every military policeman knows how to interrogate, yet the CIA is a complete disaster. They co-opted our Republican system of presidential selections, which has to stop. And that's the key of the American public, to demand that every candidate be completely vetted out. There will be no excuse for skull and bones, no excuse for top secrecy, no excuse for a man like John Kerry, who's part of Skull and Bones, and George Bush Jr., both Skull and Bones in the same class that had to be mediated by Fred Smith of FedEx. So that kind of nonsense in the Republic has to stop. If not, then we will go onto the streets and do what we need to.
In this way, we must show our absolute aversion to authoritarian states and dictatorships of any kind. The president's emotion was understandable. A leftist activist in the early 70s, she too was jailed and tortured. Yet she opposes calls to prosecute former military rulers.
2 former members of the Pinochet regime have been sentenced to 3 years in prison for their part in the torture and killing of the father of President Michelle Bachelet. General Bachelet was tortured at the Air Force Academy along with thousands of others, which led to his death. Many were disappointed with the lenient 3-year sentence.
Detainees who were subjected to EITs at some point during their confinement subsequently provided information that our experts found to be useful and valuable in our counterterrorism efforts. And the cause and effect relationship between the application of those EITs and the ultimate provision of information is unknown and unknowable.
You want the best that's out there at the lowest price anywhere? Well, we're bringing you a total win-win. The ultimate value, cutting-edge, trailblazing game changer that also supports the InfoWar. We have produced a limited run of DNA Force, and it will take up to 12 weeks to produce more once we sell out. Secure your DNA Force today at InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. DNA Force from InfoWars Life.